With us right here on NTV Uganda, the #1 TV in the world. My name is Romeo Busiku, and of course I come yet again with another pertinent conversation, largely focusing on the work of the Uganda Revenue Authority when it comes to mobilizing resources domestically right here in Uganda. What are some of the most ethical ways through which Uganda Revenue Authority actually mobilizes local taxes right here in Uganda? How best do they collect taxes in Uganda without being corrupt, without asking for bribes and all that? So speaking about integrity, there was a video that made rounds on social media, that is last week. I want to use layman's language so that you understand what we are talking about. And the police did jump into, that is Sheikh Yunus Kamoga's compound. They beat up everyone that was in there. But then later on, the police spokesperson in anger came out and said, that is not ethical. That behavior is not of police. It doesn't represent the Uganda police force. We don't just jump into people's houses and then we beat them up. We don't do that. So we can use layman's terms to actually help you understand what the conversation today is all about. URA is not going to come to your house and beat you up simply because you didn't pay taxes. No, that is not going to happen. That is not ethical. So we are talking about promoting integrity in accountability and also resource mobilization in that regard. We do have, that is Gloria Nshekanabo, Miss Gloria Nshekanabo. She is the manager, ethics and integrity at the Uganda Revenue Authority. Later on, we shall also interface with Mr. Bosa Ibrahim. He is the Assistant Commissioner for Public and Corporate Affairs at the Uganda Revenue Authority. But I do have Gloria for now. Very good afternoon, Gloria. How are you doing?
Yes, good afternoon to you.
Indeed, I use that analogy to help the viewer, understand what we are really talking about, issues to do with integrity. There was that video that came out last week, police entering Sheikh Yunus Kamoga's home and then beating up everyone. So indeed, even with the Uganda Revenue Authority, we could never fathom a situation whereby you come to Romeo Busiku's home simply because I'm not paying taxes.
No.
That doesn't, represent what the Uganda Revenue Authority is all about. It's not ethical.
No.
So indeed, we are here to talk about how best we can promote integrity and accountability in revenue mobilization. But kicking off, someone who is watching this show maybe for the very first time and having this subject for the very first time, Uganda Revenue Authority, what is the Uganda Revenue Authority and what is its mandate?
Okay, thank you very much. Probably you introduced me, and I could say, I could introduce myself even better.
Indeed.
My name is Gloria Nshekanabo Ndiomugabe. I'm the manager, ethics and integrity at Uganda Revenue Authority. Now, Uganda Revenue Authority, most of you know that it is a government parastatal and mandated to assess, collect, and account for all government revenue, both including the non-tax revenue, and it also advises government on any tax policy issues. So even when the parliamentarians are in parliament, URA can advise. But URA is very passionate about integrity, and that's why I'm here. So we continuously promote integrity. And as we go through, I'll take you through some of the initiatives that we have.
Indeed, before we get into the initiatives, Gloria, I would like to know what is the Uganda Revenue Authority's definition of integrity in this case? Yeah.
URA has decided to define integrity because like any other, there are so many definitions of integrity. So what we are looking at people, processes and systems work as promised in the client and employee value proposition. So what do you mean by this? We mean that integrity means how are the people serving the clients? Are we giving a simplified, are we giving a timely, are we giving a reliable and convenient revenue service? Because that is the promise we have made to our clients. So once we don't go by the promise, then that one, you are free to ask as a taxpayer. Because you are entitled to a timely, a simplified, if any URA staff delays you, if they don't give you the service that you expect, that one is a breach of contract. So that's how we are defining integrity. And we're also defining integrity that we are going to be available and reliable. So anytime, that's why you see URA is open 24/7, because we are out there to serve our clients.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. Go ahead. What are some of those actions that you actually know about that do not bring out the values of the Uganda Revenue Authority?
Okay. You know, as we are collecting taxes, we are dealing with people. Hmm? And most of the things we have actually are people issues, because what we have done, we've tried to put up all the systems and processes to make sure that the service is smooth.
Indeed.
But we get challenges, especially people issues, together with the clients, who I can call the taxpayers. So how do they relate with URA staff? Because most of the taxpayers that we are dealing with here, you know, the Ugandan culture, where they think that you must pay extra something to get something. So we get those challenges.
Is it a Ugandan culture, really?
Okay, I can say it is an African culture. It is an African culture where we have people, taxpayers, who don't keep their books well.
Yes.
So we've gone ahead to do tax education, teaching them how properly they can keep their books, so that when we are doing the assessments, their books are balanced.
I see, especially the small and medium-sized enterprises. They have a problem with bookkeeping and keeping records.
Right. We have a lot of informal sector. In your, you know, the kind of clients that we have, mostly they're informal sector. So we want to see them keeping their books well. So if they don't keep their books well, then it becomes so difficult for us to assess the taxes. We have those ones that don't even do the filing. They don't file returns. And because they don't file returns, they do late payments. And when they do late payments, they find themselves paying fines. That is money they could avoid paying. But because the whole problem starts from not filing, then they end up paying fines. We have those ones that, you know, are just non-compliant. Like recently we had, I'm not going to go into that discussion of e-receipts and invoicing, but some people are not issuing the e-receipts and the e-invoices, and yet they know it is something new that we have introduced.
But of course, if it is something new and they are not issuing the e-receipts and e-invoices, maybe they do not understand what they are. Maybe let's break it down for them.
Okay, yeah, we are breaking it down for them. We have everywhere. We have the URA bus going around. We have people doing tax education there everywhere. We have offices in all the districts where someone can walk in. We have all the platforms where you can clock in and just, you know, understand how this works.
Indeed.
And we are available 24/7, like the promise that we made.
So how do the e-invoices work?
Now, that one is another long story of the e-invoice. We are not going to go into it because we want to see the integrity in it.
Indeed.
And this one is going to help the taxpayer themselves so that they can account for their sales, so that we don't have to struggle when we are going to pay taxes, because everything is electronic. So we are helping the taxpayer. So
they don't have to come to your office, Uganda Revenue Authority, even in Chazanga on my smartphone.
It is real time. It is real time. We see the money coming in, and it is simple for the taxpayer because they can do it on their phone, they can do it in their premises.
Indeed.
So it is really something good for them, and also URA benefits and the government at large. It is a whole big topic, and someone can talk about you can invite somebody to just talk about the e-invoicing the whole day, because it is a whole topic. But the other thing is that we have situations where people fail to do audit reconciliations.
What is audit reconciliation?
So remember I told you about keeping books.
Indeed.
So when they keep books, they have to balance. So they have to balance their businesses so that they see how much they are supposed to remit to Uganda Revenue Authority. So if they cannot reconcile, then when our auditors come, they find there's something missing.
You've been running a business for 1 year. You don't know how much in profits you've made in that 1 year. So you wouldn't know how much to file in tax returns.
You cannot. You can't know if you've not kept your books well. Then you can't do the audit reconciliations.
Indeed.
Because we advise people to have at least an accountant with them so that they are able to help them keep their books, their records well, so that they are reconciled. So when they come to URA, at least we have a platform where we are doing business properly.
Indeed.
And sometimes they delay in submitting these documents to URA. You know, URA has requirements, and I am assuming that taxpayers know about this, but in case they didn't know, they can still come to URA. There are requirements of every transaction that you do with URA. For example, if you're an importer, you know that for you to import a car, you need ABCD. So what are those requirements? Have you read about them? Are you sure you have the import documents? Have you gone through the process the way you're supposed to do? So if you don't have them, then those are the challenges that you will encounter as you deal with URA.
Indeed. Gloria, the viewer who is watching this show would like to know how lack of integrity actually affects the image of the Uganda Revenue Authority.
You see, I can say integrity is the bedrock of everything. So if you're building the house and the foundation has cracks, what happens?
Indeed, of course, a disaster in the near future.
It may not be just in the near future. Some of it could be immediately.
During the construction itself.
So because URA is mandated to collect revenue, so if we don't collect revenue, it means we are not able to support the government. And if we are not able to support the government, it means we are not getting value. We are not getting those roads fixed. And I don't want to start that because you say, hey, the roads these days, what. But even whatever works are being on, is because we're able to collect that little money. That it's not anyway little money we are collecting. We are collecting a lot. So if we don't cover those gaps, if we don't have the foundation, which is the integrity, many things will go wrong. So it starts with even recruitment. What kind of people are we recruiting? What kind of skills have they got? What kinds of systems are we using? They have those loopholes all covered? You know, do they have the security that we need to do business? So what kinds of processes have we put in place? Remember, we said integrity is about people, systems, and processes. Okay, so everything must be working well, nothing short. So if there's anything short, it means all of us are not benefiting. The taxpayer will be complaining because the platforms are not there, the processes where he can come and pay, even when some taxpayers are willing to pay taxes. Like they are delayed. So if he's delayed, he can sit back. That money that we should have collected today, maybe we miss it. So it is a whole big story of losing trust as well. When there's lack of integrity, that means people are going to lose trust interacting with you. And if they lose trust, it means they cannot comply. They cannot come and pay. Yeah? So they will hold or they'll use other means. Okay? So integrity is really.
So you're telling us there are some people out there who willingly refuse to pay taxes, Gloria? What
are you saying, willingly? There are people who don't want to pay taxes. They're out there, many of them. But most of them don't know that they are supposed to pay.
That's one thing.
There's the group that is unaware.
And it could take us to awareness raising on the part of URA, whether it's been enough when it comes to dissemination of information on how they are supposed to follow these processes. Some people may not know, like you say, but it would be hard to believe that there are people out there who willingly refuse and say,
There are very many who willingly refuse.
Wow.
But we are not sleeping.
Indeed.
We are trying to make sure that people are aware of what their responsibilities, because I can say it is everyone's responsibility to pay tax, you know? It is everyone's responsibility. Once you're working, you're earning, you're staying in a country, so you are entitled, you're compelled to contribute towards the country's development. So the only way you can do it is being a good citizen and paying your taxes.
Go ahead, Gloria. You were still telling us about people who actually willingly refuse to pay taxes.
No, those ones.
How do they do it?
They just don't.
How are some of the most unethical ways that they refuse to pay taxes?
Some of the unethical ways that they can connive.
With your people at
With
URA.
our people, they can connive. They can connive. They can use other ways. They can conceal. They can, hide away stuff, like when they're balancing their books, they don't tell us all the transactions, and that's why we are trying to do everything electronic, but some of them will not put it there for those reasons.
If my business is 800 million, I'll only account for 200 million and keep the 600.
Of course, because we are going to tax only what you have shown us if we don't catch you. because like you said, we are trying to put it, to make it a layman's, you know, like put it to that level that everyone else understands it. So if you're going to show me 200, that means we are going to make an assessment on the 200. So you're cheating the other one. That is how you're dodging. Or sometimes they come and connive. They connive with us, with our staff. And when they connive with staff, that is not acceptable in Uganda Revenue Authority. I'll tell you the mechanism we've put in place to avoid such a thing. Because for us in URA, integrity is zero tolerance.
To corruption.
Zero tolerance. That is what we say. That is the standard. But of course, even if I'm saying it is a standard, we have those they call them the bad apples that are there. But we have mechanisms that are going to get rid of, you know, because every day we are sweeping.
Break down some of those unethical actions that are exhibited by your people, by your staff at the Uganda Revenue Authority. Me as Romeo Busiku, I would like to know, you know, when I come to the Uganda Revenue Authority, that whatever person X is telling me is actually not ethical. I'm not supposed to pay here to get this service. So indeed, the viewers should be in the know, getting information from the horse's mouth.
URA services are free. There's no URA service that is paid for.
I'm only hearing this for the first time.
No. Every URA service is free. And you're entitled to that service. And URA officers are there to serve clients 24/7. That is the promise we have made to you. Okay? We are going to be available, and we are going to serve you 24/7 and for free. And because of that, we work 24/7 in shifts so that anytime you want the service, it is there. And on top of that, there's the online platform where you can do some of these things online. Like when you're registering for the team, you can do it online.
All right, that is Ms. Gloria Nshikanabo, the Manager Ethics and Integrity at the Uganda Revenue Authority. We are talking about how best, the most ethical ways through which Uganda Revenue Authority actually collects taxes among the masses. Do not forget, in the budget in the financial year 2023-2024 that is oncoming, there is some 52.7 trillion Uganda shillings that has been put together. But then 29 trillion of that money is going to come from your pocket and my pocket. Your RA will make sure that they, you know, find ways of collecting that money from me and you. But what are some of the ethical ways through which they collect those taxes? That's why we are here. Issues to do with promoting integrity and accountability in revenue mobilization. Let's take a break. Return shortly with Ibrahim Bossa, the Assistant Commissioner of Public and Corporate Affairs. We'll be right back. From the horse's mouth. Well, even when we broke off, the conversation kept moving on. Hello there, very good afternoon once again, and thank you for keeping it NTV Uganda. A pertinent conversation is in the offing. We are talking about how best Uganda Revenue Authority can promote integrity and accountability when they are collecting taxes locally here in Uganda. You heard from Gloria Nshikanabo, the Manager Ethics and Integrity. We are now joined by Mr. Bossa Ibrahim. He is the Assistant Commissioner, that is Public and Corporate Affairs. So before we get into the challenges that affect URA or that you go through when you are actually collecting taxes locally, let's first get your point of view when it comes to the topic of integrity. What is your definition of integrity, Mr. Bossa?
Thank you very much, and a very good evening to our viewers. Uganda Revenue Authority has adopted an internationally probably recognized definition for integrity, where we focus on our people, we focus on our processes, we focus on our systems. Remember, as a revenue mobilizer for this country, we do the assessment, the collection, and accountability for taxes. So the people have to be right, do the right thing professionally with integrity and also patriotism. We also need to have processes that actually work for the people. Things should be timely, should be simple, should be accessible, and basically the experience, what we call the customer journey, needs to be.
And you've done your part, Ibrahim Bossa.
I think we have done
invoice and all that, digital platforms.
We have tried our best.
But then Gloria says people are not clamoring for them.
Now, that
what could be the problem?
With technology, there is an aspect of adoption. So there's a phase where we have to do probably a lot of sensitization. We have to do a lot of tax education.
I see.
And depending, you see, with technology, if people are first timers and users of technology, there will be various levels of adoption. But what we are doing on our part is that it's just not introducing any technology. We introduce technology that is also feasible, viable, but actually usable. If you see, you might take an example. We have been having people paying taxes through the bank, online. You could use Visa, you could use Payway, you could use mobile money. But we still have few people who have been angering, saying that they still struggle to be able to make a remittance on taxes. We have now come down to introduce a USSD. If you dial *285#, you can pay your rent, you can pay your presumptive tax, you can check for your TIN. So we are making it as easy as ABC.
With my caveat, I can
absolutely. So we are
get on there and just boom.
Thank you. That is inclusion at the end of the day. So yes, we have done a lot to try to introduce technology and systems, because the lesser we also get people interacting with people, then we also reduce the risks that come with integrity and also corruption.
We're talking about also small and medium-sized enterprises. They make up 80% of the private sector. You and I know that. But then Ms. Gloria was telling us you've had a challenge when it comes to collecting taxes from this lot of individuals within this country. Would like to know where the main challenge lies.
Uganda is, I think we are in a transformational journey when it comes to revenue mobilization.
I see.
We have people who are probably paying taxes for the first time. How? 2020, our tax register had 1.4 million taxpayers. Today, we have 3.2 million taxpayers.
Double.
So we have a bulk of people who are probably paying some taxes, say like income taxes, direct taxes, for the first time in 3 years. Now, developing a culture of voluntary compliance, you know, that civic duty that I need to be able to part with a small portion of my income for nation building is a lifelong journey. So we are on that journey right now. So you'll find that people are taught on how to formalize their businesses, which is a very big challenge because we have very many people in the informal sector. So they need to register for taxes. We need to onboard them. Onboarding is a lifelong journey. That means we work with you to make sure you know your obligations, you know your rights, you know when to file, how to file, how much to file. So you'll find that we have a journey of about 6 months hand-holding a new taxpayer before they can actually make their first payment in terms of taxes. So with our society, given with the literacy levels, usually our education has to be in multiple languages. We have to be at the grassroots. So it takes effort, it takes time, it takes a lot of investment. So you'll find that, yes, we are making progress, but we are taking baby steps, and we think we'll be getting there. Come 2025, we expect to have 5 million taxpayers on our register.
Well, I see where you're going with that, but some of the businessmen and businesswomen I've been able to talk to in the informal sector have told me that, Romeo, Uganda Revenue Authority overly taxes us. You know, we've just come out of a 2-year, hiatus when it comes to business dealings because of COVID-19. When it came out of that, we didn't see any leeway from Uganda Revenue Authority to allow businesses breathe a little and recover. Instead, Uganda Revenue Authority said, well, we need to ramp up this machine because we need the money that is going to fund other government projects. So the issue of overtaxation on the locals, talk about that. It seems to be a concern for them.
I think there is a misconception and also an information gap.
Indeed.
But it's understandable. Many people don't like paying taxes. I'll tell you, I pay 40% of my taxes in terms of pay as you earn. I can't say I love that, but it's my civic duty to do so. So many people don't want to pay taxes.
I pay like $1 million every month.
You see, so somehow,
my pay.
The narrative may change depending on who you're talking to. But if you look at the facts, one, we do not tax losses. If you're not making a profit as a business, you are not paying taxes. Two, we run a self-assessment regime. You know how best you run your business. You know how much you've invested, you know what your costs are, you know what your profitability is. You come to the taxman and say, this is my profit, and that is where we will charge a tax. So how are we killing your business? If you're a small business in Uganda, you are probably earning between 10 million and 150 million in terms of turnover annually. That is what we call a small business. The least a small business will pay in terms of tax, what we call the presumptive tax, is 80,000. The maximum a presumptive taxpayer pays, that's if you're earning a turnover of about 140 million in a year, is 900,000 shillings a year. Does that kill a business? I don't know, but watch this. The biggest tax that people complain about, if people say tax is killing business, they will not tell you income tax. They will not tell you rental tax. They will tell you VAT. They will tell you withholding tax.
Indeed.
But this is the trick.
Yeah.
VAT is a consumption tax paid by the final consumer. If you're a VAT registered business, your job is to collect that tax and transmit it. Meaning, if you have a problem with VAT, that means you collected it and you have eaten it. Who is stealing from who?
Indeed.
So sometimes you have to be cautious to know what exactly is the problem. But also, as the Uganda Revenue Authority, we are also very aware that one, there were some tax breaks that were given for purposes of the COVID period. Two, we have introduced the voluntary disclosure program. If people are having problems with taxes, you voluntarily come and tell us what problems you have, and we give you a payment plan on how to go about it. So right now we're actually struggling with arrears management. Debts of taxes, people have acknowledged they owe to pay, but have not yet been paid. That means that we are a listening institution when it comes to appreciating issues of taxes. So I'm thinking that usually if you really have a problem with us, today we can accept to come, we sit on a round table. Even when we disagree, today we can have a conversation about taxes. So this regime of John Musinguzi is putting a human face to taxation.
I can see that, and that is how best you're promoting integrity and accountability when it comes to revenue mobilization. But putting aside some of the challenges you've mentioned, what are some of the other challenges that you face as URA when it comes to collecting government revenue?
Challenges are many. One, for example, many people would not want to pay like import duties. So we have people who are engaged in smuggling.
So if I'm bringing in a car from the US, I don't want to pay taxes.
People with cars, smuggled cars are rare, but those people will undervalue.
So these are goods, and
they will undervalue the value of the vehicle, and that is also a way of lack of integrity on the part of the you know, because you're undervaluing. You know, some people falsify documents at the end of the day. Some people will suppress their sales. They will lie to the taxman of how much they're being, you know, that kind of thing. We have people basically who you've heard of invoice trading, for example. They're actually playing the system. They're actually requesting for refunds for no goods sold in terms of VAT. So somebody claims, I have either exported something or sold to this company something, but actually no transaction did happen, and they come to claim a refund in terms of VAT. All these basically create challenges at the end of the day. Some people, many I think I would say, will either not file a return or forget to file a return, and that is usually the beginning of the problems in taxation. If you fail to file a return, the system will make you a default assessment. And all of a sudden now penalties begin to kick in, interest begins to kick in, and that's where people begin to get problems with taxes. I don't know if you have ever wondered, the people here who do not really struggle with taxes are the Indians. These people are very calculative. One, because they always file their returns. Whether the returns are correct or not, that's a different matter, but they will always file the returns.
Indeed.
So people like Grolia will go chasing people who have not filed the return, and you are reluctant to chase on somebody who has already filed the return.
It could be because the Indians have the information when it comes to filing returns. And my local people maybe haven't been savvy to that kind of information.
Unfortunately, if you see the way we work today, and we have worked at this for some time, to an extent that it is nagging people, we usually remind people in terms of when to pay their taxes. We will send you an email if you have one. We will send you an SMS if you have one. We will put notices on radio, on social media, to remind people to be able to pay their taxes. Sometimes we will have somebody walking to your premises to remind you to file your return and pay your taxes. Today, our staff are in the field asking people who pay presumptive taxes to be able to meet their obligations before the close of the year. The effort is there. If you look at our tax education, we have gotten mobile tax offices. These are buses that go to the villages, to the townships, to the markets, for people who may find it reluctant to go to an official office for URA or to the bank. and we will basically help you to make a transaction in your establishment. In spite of that, there are people who will always fail to pay their taxes on time or deliberately probably ignore it.
Others are providing wrong addresses to the URA system. My business is in Mbale, I say it is in Chazang.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
But
Others are having multiple registration for tins. Somebody has 5 tins. You're paying taxes on this tin. When the penalties, interest, and all this begin to crop up, you go to a different tin, use a friend's tin. All that is dishonesty. All that is also integrity. When it's an integrity issue when it comes to taxation. So I think the point here is when we're looking at it is a two-way street. We have obligations as a tax collector, and we need to be held accountable. But we should also hold accountable the taxpayer because they have a duty, they have an obligation, and unfortunately, it's in statute of law.
Talk about the failure to affix stamps on gazetted goods.
Yes. Now, usually we have come up with a number of technologies to help us in collecting a number of taxes.
Indeed.
If you look at the value-added tax, we have the electronic receipting and invoicing solution, which helps to monitor purchases, sales, and things of the kind. And it helps people to be able to file their returns very easily because everything is now digitized. The same with the digital tracking stamps, whereby largely for local excise duty, for manufacturers, there will be a stamp that will be affixed on the product, so we actually know when you produce. So gone are the days where we're going to come and haggle to say this is how much you produced, this is how much you sold, and you say no, this is not what happened, because everything is in the clear. Everything has been digitized. But because many of our Ugandan brothers and sisters are still struggling with the civic obligation of being transparent, of having integrity, you'll find that either people do not apply the stamps, others will apply them and not activate them. And that is why there is actually a new measure, I think a new amendment that is coming. The penalty for failing to affix a stamp on a good that is gazetted to be so has actually hiked. It's going to be very expensive for somebody to be caught, because that neighbor's fraud, if it's not fraud itself.
Indeed.
So at the end of the day, much as there are efforts to make it easy to comply, to create transparency on both sides, for we, the tax collectors, and the people who actually are paying the taxes, you'll find that there are still those elements who think that they can play around with the system. And, I mean, God forbid, we will try our best to educate them. We'll try
Using
our best
such platforms like NTV Uganda.
Absolutely.
Yes,
We will
sure.
try as much as possible to be mindful and to be courteous. But at the end of the day, if push comes to shove,
Indeed.
we engage, we will educate. Worst case scenario, we will enforce.
Well, of course, we've talked about the taxpayer one too many times, but then we've not talked about the tax enforcer himself, who sometimes, not all of them, is corrupt. We'd like to know what mechanisms the Uganda Revenue Authority has put in place to ensure that you fight the issue of corruption. Gloria and Shekanabo, we could start with you.
Okay. I can say this fight, we can't do it alone.
Indeed.
Like I told you before about the culture of Ugandans, of Africans.
Of the world.
Of the yes, we have a culture.
Indeed.
And it starts from us, from you and from me. I give an example usually. You have the 3-year-old. You're in the house, you send this 3-year-old at the gate and tell that person, Mommy is not in. At 3 years. So how is that person going to perceive you? How is he going to look at life later on as a grown-up? So this person joins URA at 25. What happens? What do you think happens? He joins URA at 25. When he started lying and cheating, you taught him yourself. So it's corruption, dealing with integrity. Those are heart matters. They are behavior attributes. We need to fight, all of us. But URA, like I told you, is not sleeping. So URA, first of all, had created a division specifically to deal with our internal staff. There's a division called Staff Compliance. That is the IGG of Uganda Revenue Authority. So that one will help us to fight, to make sure that every staff is within, they're supposed to behave the way they do's and don'ts, they must be within the game. And then we have we developed what we call a comprehensive integrity strategy. So we have a strategy, and this strategy cuts across. But before we develop the strategy, we had to first assess and see where are we as URA in terms of integrity? You know, there are best practices, the tools that are there that we can measure the level. But from the time we measured the level, we have now checked again and we have done some improvement. So since we developed the integrity strategy, we have at least improved a little bit. And in that strategy, there was improvement of tax education, and that's what my colleague was talking about. We have improved, the way we do business has changed. The way we collaborate, he was talking about now we engage. There's a lot of engagement. That's why we're here. We never used to come to TV. You were not our friends. So we are trying, we have improved the way we interact with the taxpayers, the way we interact. We've realized that they are very, very critical. So one of the things in the strategy was to make sure that we improve collaboration with the other government agencies, with the other stakeholders, so that we are able to find a fine landing where all of us can be talking about the same language. And then, of course, the other thing that is very critical, we have strong disciplinary mechanisms at URA. You don't get away with it. Not anymore. So we have...
Not anymore. Meaning before.
Yes. Remember I told you we have a division specifically. Their job is to actually to promote, is to define, first of all, we define integrity. This is what it means. So the job of that IGG of URA, which is Staff Compliance Division, is first of all to make sure that we define what we mean by integrity, which we have already talked about. It is just people, process, and systems. And then on top of that, we promote, meaning that we go ahead and implement and we walk the talk, because I can't be talking about integrity and then someone is pointing a finger. Yeah, so, and then after that, we do the enforcement. Now, this enforcement, that's where the disciplinary process is. So the URA staff will not have an excuse that I did not know what the policy is talking about. I did not know what the code of conduct is talking about. I did not know what the anti-corruption, anti-fraud are talking about. Because we have educated them, we have engaged them, and this is a continuous process. You know, some of these things, you don't stop. And we are not doing it alone. We are even coming to the external stakeholders, because things of lacking integrity, they involve the external, because they are the ones bringing they are the one bringing the ideas, and sometimes where it is corruption, bringing the money. So we engage the stakeholders as well. We pick your ideas, and they've advised on many ways on how we can cap these things. We have robust policies, robust. So they were approved recently. We have revamped. What
kind of policies are those? Some of them.
We have the anti-corruption, anti-fraud and corruption policy. We have the prevention of harassment, sexual harassment, and abuse of authority. We have the lifestyle audit. It is a favorite of some people when they hear of lifestyle audit.
Someone is getting 800,000 a month, but he has a mansion of 800.
Thank you.
That is it.
There you go.
Then you're like, Mr. Romy Busiku, where did you get that money? So lifestyle audits.
Yes.
They're not towards politicians only, but even the Uganda Revenue Authority.
No,
that is good news.
Those are our policies internally.
Yes. That is good news.
And we have also, we reviewed the code of conduct, because you know the code of conduct is the guideline for everyone in the organization to follow. Like, if you join this village, what are the rules of the village? So we reviewed the code of conduct. So we have these policies, and we are still, we have the whistleblowing policy, whistleblowing. So we allow people to report bad behavior. It is one of the ways we are going to prevent, because we don't have our eyes everywhere.
You mentioned sexual harassment. How does it play out?
There's a lot of, you know, when you're in a community,
yes,
and you're dealing with very many different people, so anything like that can happen. Sexual harassment is where
tax enforcers harassing taxpayers, or the other way around.
It cuts across. The taxpayers can harass us, we can harass them, and you know, even the stakeholders. But it is where someone, you ask specifically about sexual harassment, when someone you know, I don't want this. you insist. It can be as small as just being unpleasant. Like you call me names. You know, these days social media came. You send me a message, and I say I don't want this message, and you insist. So when you're insisting to me, you're harassing me. And that's why this policy, both of them, sexual harassment, and abuse of authority, it is one policy because the behaviors are almost around the same time. Like they're the same thing.
I hear you.
So it is something we don't tolerate in URA because we are saying we want everyone to be in a very good work environment for us to be able to collect the revenue that we're supposed to.
That is Ms. Gloria Shekanamo, the Manager Ethics and Integrity of the Uganda Revenue Authority. She's not alone. We also do have Mr. Ibrahim Bossa, the Assistant Commissioner Public and Corporate Affairs at the Uganda Revenue Authority. Yes, Bossa, we are talking about mechanisms that have been put forth by the authority to ensure that we do away with issues to do with corruption. And I can see some of the mechanisms that were put in place is that collaboration with the ministries, departments and agencies and also the regional revenue authorities to fight corruption. We would like you to expand more on that. Yes.
Excellent. First, I would want to make our viewers to appreciate that at Uganda Revenue Authority today, we have very many people who are of integrity and many people who are totally not corrupt. But we have a few bad apples that give us a bloody nose. And for some reason, bad news moves faster. And that is why we find ourselves in a position where we are. And it's good that partners like yourself are willing to have this discussion so that people get to know what exactly is happening. In our collaboration with the different MDAs and also other revenue authorities around the East African region, we benchmark and compare notes. First, we help to build each other capacity. Say, for example, right now we have a new performance management tool for all staff at the Uganda Revenue Authority, which we benchmarked from Kenya. Every staff has to identify an integrity issue or risk within their area of jurisdiction, and they have to report on it every quarter and at the end of the year to show what did you do to address it.
Amazing.
Issues of integrity and corruption are now an everyday observation for every individual. So we are everybody's keeper to make sure that is happening. So these are things we have discussed and benchmarked with other jurisdictions who have seemed to be ahead of us. Recently we hosted the ERA CG, that is the East African Community Commissioner General's meeting in Uganda here, where all the Commissioner Generals of the East African Revenue Mobilization Agencies were in Uganda. And each of them was sharing experiences on a number of things, including how to handle issues of corruption. And if you see the kind of automation, the kind of systems we have built in place, many of them have been benchmarked with our neighboring countries, and they are doing fantastically well, but they are designed, one, to make it easy for people to report corruption, for people to be able to remain anonymous without the risk of being intimidated, you know, because you have reported corruption, and also to make sure that you can even track the progress of a report that has been made on integrity or corruption. So that's why we are coming up with the URA touch point, for example. It is manned by a customer relationship management solution, whereby when you make a report, there are standard level agreements at each stage, from start of making a report to when it has to be concluded. People who are handling this issue along the line have targets, have measures to make sure that they act on it. Gone are the days where you make a report and somehow it gets lost within the wind. Today it has to be tracked, you know who has handled it, and you'll get to know what the consequences are. These are things that we're able to get by benchmarking and working with other agencies. Being able to share information, because we are saying if you are registering with URSB and registering a business, then why aren't you identified as a taxpayer? So that means you need also to be registering for a tax identification number so that you are a legitimate taxpayer. If you are getting a license from KCCA for trade, why aren't you registered on the tax register? If you're getting a permit for an event and so on. Why aren't you that collaboration and exchange of information creates transparency so that people are not dodging around the system.
Indeed.
At the end of this, at the end of the day. So you'll find it is very powerful for us to be able to speak to each other, systems speaking to each other, sharing information that can help us, one, to improve transparency, but two, can help people to be able to comply voluntarily.
Indeed.
In matters of taxes.
Well, based on the research I've been doing, I've also realized that the Uganda Revenue Authority has strong disciplinary mechanisms. You know, we have traders in Chikuba who are watching this show and they're wondering, but Romy Busiku, we've never heard of any particular URA staffer being actually sent to courts of law. Actually, in this current 2022-2023 financial year, 22 staffers at the Uganda Revenue Authority have been terminated.
Absolutely.
Others are grappling with these cases in the courts of law.
Absolutely.
You understand? URA will investigate. They won't even call on to the police. No, they have mechanisms internally that will investigate their own and then subject them to dismissals there and then. 22 of those in this current financial year.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Glory.
Oh, maybe what I can tell you is the other thing we've done, we've developed an integrity curriculum.
Integrity curriculum. Expand on that.
It is integrity, compliance, and ethics curriculum. So we haven't rolled it out, except that we've been picking up some pieces of it to take it out for sensitization. So this program, we are going to train all URA staff, as in all URA staff, on integrity issues. Now, these integrity issues, including the behavior attributes, we take them through the policies, we take them through the disciplinary process so that they know
Indeed.
in case of anything, what process they will go through. So this curriculum is in 2 different modules. And every URA staff will have to go through, right from senior management. So we are planning to roll it out next year. But it will also go out to the external clients because they are our stakeholders, they're the people we do business with.
So there is a trader in Chikubo who is watching and indeed is wondering, in case I'm being asked for a bribe, where do I seek redress? In case I have a problem with the URA and how you are serving me, where do I go to file my complaint?
Yes, okay, there are very different ways, there are platforms where you can complain. We have an office, like I told you at the start, we have an office called Staff Compliance Office. It is based at Nakawa headquarters. It is for some of you viewers who know Nakawa headquarters, it's not the tower, not the big building. It is just at the back where normally those many cars park back that have been impounded. So there's an office called Staff Compliance. You can just walk in office. Anyone you find there, you can report. We have also some numbers, so I tell the viewers the numbers that...
Please go ahead, tell them the numbers.
Yeah, there's 0323443033 or 0772141075. So
I could repeat that for the viewer.
Yes,
0323443033 or 0772141075. They also have an email here, jabola@ura.go.ug. Jabola, that is JABOOLA at ura.
It is actually single O.
That is
JABOLA. Yeah.
At ura.go.ug. So you can reach them on either that email or the numbers that we gave you, and you'll be able to actually file your complaint in real time, and you'll get redress in that regard. So as we crown this conversation, Mr. Ibrahim Bossa, in a minute or so, what advice do you have for the viewers who are watching this particular show?
First, we call upon our taxpayers, our dear taxpayers. One, they've done a fantastic job, and we thank you for the contribution you're making to national development. But we're saying, please continue to file your returns on time. And as a taxpayer, we're also saying that you may have challenges. If you have challenges, we are approachable now as the Uganda Revenue Authority. We are saying also to the taxpayers, do not bribe us.
Services are free, they're not for sale.
Exactly. You see, corruption is two-way. So there's corruption that is customer-led, but there's also corruption that may be staff-led. As a customer, please
enabling environment.
Do not bribe our staff. However, if you find a corrupt URA officer, if our officer acts in any way that is lacking integrity, please let us know, because we will sort it. So if you see it, tell us, we will sort it. So at the end of the day, if we are in an environment where we are filing our returns, paying our taxes diligently, keeping records for our businesses, because that's the biggest challenge we face, especially with small businesses, lack of keeping adequate records, we think that we can have a very good, buoyant economy where we are collecting the right taxes, collecting them in the right amounts, and being able to build this nation and developing it together.
Thank you so much, and indeed desist from engaging in any form of tax evasion or any illegal activities in that regard, and also maintain proper business record keeping. That is very, very important. And timely filing of returns, that will also go a long way in helping you as a business person and also a taxpayer. Well, that is it for this conversation that was largely focused on promoting accountability and integrity in resource mobilization locally right here in Uganda. I did have Ms. Gloria Shekanabo, the Manager, Ethics and Integrity at URA, and also Mr. Ibrahim Bossa, that is the Assistant Commissioner of Public and Corporate Affairs at URA. And indeed, thank you so much for having made the time to actually watch and learn a lot that is happening at the Uganda Revenue Authority. Have yourselves a blessed day.